Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and all of my companions around the world, welcome to another episode of the Consciousness Companions with us. Your host, first and foremost, let me introduce the MVP of BDE, all the way from LA. Yes, we got Christopher Divine in the building. And then you got me, the hip hop hypnotherapist, self-talk engineer himself, the man's with the NLP, Charles Woolfork, right here. And now we have a special guest today on the Conscious Companion, our first guest right here on the Conscious Companion, Eddie Maisonet III. Kris, let them know about Eddie Maisonet.
Yes, sir. We got Ed, the sports fan, in the building.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Eddie Maisonet, he leads editorial strategy for combat sports over at ESPN. He's a master's graduate from University of San Francisco, sports journalism. Just living life, father, a son, a husband. He's just here to share some of his experiences in the world with us and talk about some positivity.
First lesson, have your boys schedule a podcast when it's time to put your son to bed, so get you out of one chore at night. So I appreciate it.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
There you go. Exactly.
That's right.
Why do the heavy lifting we can share?
That's right. It ain't no fun unless we all can, have some,
All good. All good.
So, Eddie, man, what's the name of your son and how old is
he? Yeah, sure. My son's name is Emory James Maisonet. He turned 16 months old as of 48 hours ago. And this little man is built like a baby Aaron Donald. He gets out the blocks fast. He has an appetite like a defensive lineman. He refuses, he has tireless energy, and he is a bundle of love and joy. He flirts with all of my wife's girlfriends. So, he's a man of my own heart. And he's great. Like it's funny how soft a child can make you. Everything makes me cry now. I watched Wakanda Forever and in the theater, and like at the beginning when T'Challa, they showed T'Challa had died and Chadwick Boseman, I got a little emotional. And at the end, they showed his son. A spoiler alert, his son, and they're in Haiti, and like the whole thing happened, and I was bawling in the theater, and I was like, this is only because I'm a father now, because otherwise I would have never cried through any of this.
Quick second, just a recap of some the things that we're going to do today is we're going to talk to Eddie about his newfound fatherhood. He's been a father for a little over a year now. Him and his wife, Paige.
Abu?
Young professionals growing up in the ranks in both of their worlds, and introducing a new bundle of joy into their situation. And so a lot of the questions that we're going to be asking you is about balance and maintaining and how that's impacting your life and things that you've learned from some of these situations. Just to give a little background for our audience out there.
Let's get it.
Mm-hmm.
So how has parenthood impacted your life when it comes to some of your personal goals and some of your relationship goals?
I mean, how much time do we have on this podcast? I just want to be clear. Look, I think the first thing with any parent, I think they'll tell you is you don't really know what sacrifice is until you have a child that can't, change its own diaper, can't feed itself, can't get out of its own crib, can't get dressed. Like this little thing is 100% dependent on you. And that has a trickle down effect on not only your relationship with your child, but then it also has an immediate impact on your partner as well. And so, for me, I think most men, most partners, I'm gonna be a little bit more binary and open about this. I think most partners to the person who carried a child and had a child, they are in a position where they are trying to make their partner feel better, to recover, to feel catered for, to feel loved. And, the first thing I had to learn is, I've been with my wife, we just had our 10-year anniversary since our first date and 3-year anniversary since our wedding date last Thursday. And you quickly become a dummy when it comes to your partner, because you're like, what do you want? How can I take care of you? How can I help? And it's like, you fool. Like, you put 10 years in this relationship. Don't ask, just do. Like, just take care of your partner. And that's actually some advice I got from one of our for me and Kris's mutual friends, Paul and Alita, when they just shared some advice. And, you sacrifice that time. You sacrifice your sleep, number one. Number two, you totally reprioritize your career. I'm gonna be honest. Like I have never worked less than I have in the last 2 years. I'd actually say it's been good because it's helped me become more efficient. I am very mindful of, hey man, it's 4:30. I'm about to be out. I'm logging off. I'm not getting on Slack. Don't call me. I will not be doing work again until at least 8:30 at night. And so, and the thing that I appreciate is people respect that. Like they respect boundaries. I think understanding where the lines of demarcation are and how that impacts you. And so I think you first think about your love life and your relationship with your child, and then you think about your professional life, and then there's a trickle down with your friendships and your family member. I mean, I can speak to Kris directly. Like I had to have a conversation with Kris, like, yo, we have to work on being friends. Like there is an aspect of, yo, just because I'm married with child, it doesn't mean, you know, you can't call me. And just even if you just call me to be like, hey, we're doing this, give me the opportunity to say no. And I've had to actually have that conversation with my boys, like, yo, give me the opportunity to say no. And more than likely, I'm probably going to say no. But, you know, men go through depression, they go through loneliness. I could say it. I'm probably one of the most extroverted, sociable people out here. And I realized like I do have a craving for engagement and interaction. And I had to work on that. Me and my wife literally had a conversation like, yo, you need to host something. You need to go out. You need to go pick up the phone and call people. You need to go see people. Because you can't be, especially in the era of COVID, like we were already stuck up in the house. And so, you know, I say all these things to say like, you know, parenthood and having a child, it is a reprioritization, but you also have to realize the things that made you happy before, and you need to make sure you keep them in your life. And that second part was I realized was just as vital as the first, because my wife is going to be okay with our son, and she knows that Emery's going to be okay with me too. And I got to tell her, yo, you got to get out the house. You need to go take a girls trip. You need to go get your nails done. Like, it's okay. And, you know, like once we both realized like we were able to commit to these things, like, it's made parenthood more manageable. I would never call it easier. I would just say more manageable.
Wow. Like, how have you and Paige grown together? And I mean, obviously you guys had that connection already to where intuitively you knew how to care for her, but like how has that relationship now changed? I mean, obviously you all are making sure that you're taking care of each other's needs, but what else? What else has changed between you all to tighten that connection that you guys have?
I mean, I think when you go through experiences, you know, I think about any time I've had tough experiences, and y'all will relate to some of this. Like when you play high school football, you got experience. Like you know, you've got bonded times where things were tough and y'all pulled through to the other side. I pledged a fraternity in college. Like I have lifelong experiences with a group of fellas that, you know, that I can always relate to, and same with people that I've worked with in the industry and friends I've made and this and that and whatever. And then when you have a partner, that's another form of that. And I always think of it like you're always in on the, you always, and now, and at first that was with our relationship, but now it's with our son. And it's funny because our son will do things like, yes, your child mimics you. My son, there's a certain way I pat my dog, and I do it softly, but it's a pat. Like, I don't know, I can't really explain it other than just I pat my dog. But my son doesn't have any idea of being soft and tender. And he's just whacking the dog, and it's hilarious. And our dog is like running for her life, but it's like, oh, like he's paying attention to me. And that's like a very little thing about just being impressionable, and we can laugh at it. And you know, I would say that our relationship has evolved. I'm still getting to know her. That's pretty cool. I would say in some respects, she's actually become, I think when you have a child, I talked earlier about like prioritization. And I think as you go on in life, you have the ability to kind of refine your tastes, refine your methodologies, and refine and filter the things that get you happiness quicker. And we talk about that with our professional life, our friendships, and otherwise. And for her, like some of the things that's happened the last 2-3 years, in the midst of being pregnant, in the midst of getting married and having a child, she has skyrocketed in her career, and I'm so proud of her. And similarly, I would say I've been able to take some professional gains as well. I've actually found some new ways to kind of get myself motivated creatively with my whiskey club and things like that. And so, you know, I think two people can evolve, but they're you know, we're able to, at least I think we're fortunate, we're evolving together and we're evolving as individuals. And that doesn't work for everybody. Like not every, you know, I don't share like the utopian sense that, you know, people should try to work it out and be together forever. Like I think that's ideal. That's what we all wish for. But I think it's understandable that some people are going to grow apart because they are evolving as humans, and that's natural. But I think the way in which people separate from that is they don't have empathy for one another. They don't communicate when it's hard. It's easy to communicate when things are happy and fun. I think I'm pretty fortunate that I have a wife that Kris will know. Kris,
You gonna say what's on her mind?
she gonna tell you. She gonna tell you the truth. If she likes you, she'll tell you with some TLC, but she's still gonna tell it. It doesn't mean it ain't gonna sting or whatever. And like I tell her that all the time. I won't go into details of what happened, but I was effing up, and she read the hell out of me. I don't know what the demographics of the people are that are listening to this, but if you don't know what read the hell out of means, she told me what I needed to hear in a very assertive way. And I was like, yo, I'm gonna marry you. I didn't say that, but I was like, yo, like, cause I realized like I value people who can tell me the hard things and give me the tough feedback. And because I think those are the people that actually like care about you. So I feel like I'm being a little bit long-winded, but I think the evolution and how we've changed it goes back to prioritization. Like she has new needs than she had a year ago or 3 years ago, and I have to be there to support her, get her over the finish line, and let her know like, hey, if it's okay if it's not okay. And I think we talk about that too. Like it's funny, she has a trip she was supposed to go on next month, which is coincidentally the day after the Super Bowl. So depending on when this episode is released, her favorite team, Chris's favorite team, may or may not be Super Bowl champions. I don't know. But she's like, I'm paraphrasing, but she's like, I'm not traveling if the Cincinnati Bengals are playing. Like, that doesn't serve me. Like, I'd be much happier watching this football game, y'all. And I was like, well, then don't go. And like that's a really simple thing that is providing her happy and is getting her closer to happy, and it's not something she has to stress over. So I'm just glad that we can operate in a space where we're fortunate enough to make those choices, because I would also say lastly, not everybody can afford to take chances or to say no to certain things. And I think that's I think what makes relationships hard, is because you end up making decisions that it is an either or if then statement, and you don't know how it's going to work out. And so I think we're able to, at least for the most part, put ourselves in a situation where it doesn't have to be drastic. That's a blessing.
Yeah. Amen.
You talked a little bit about this earlier. You were saying how sometimes you gotta find time for yourself, and sometimes you have to tell her that she needs to go ahead and take time for herself. One of the things I wanted to ask you was, do you feel like you each have a role in parenthood? Or do you feel like you guys kind of share responsibilities? Do you feel like it's all 50-50? Or like, how do you feel like things are going, and how do you feel like you want them to be?
Well, I'll address a certain part of that immediately. It's never in life 50-50. It's funny, like this week, long story less long, we're trying to do our meal prep for the week. We were trying to get some things situated, and if you don't know what hat I have on, I have a Arsenal Football Club hat. It's my favorite soccer team. On Sunday, they happened to win a huge game
against for the Bengals.
Nah, not this time. This is AFC for Arsenal Football Club. One time to the Gunners. But I remember I was sitting there and like I didn't get a chance to watch the whole game. And one of the things that I love to do is I love to send her upstairs and be like, go upstairs and relax. I'm gonna clean the kitchen. I'm gonna get our son's food ready for the next day. But it also serves me because I kind of want to just watch Arsenal highlights in peace. I kind of want to watch the wrestling documentaries I can't really watch in front of her, or anime, or basketball highlights, like whatever, outside of playing video games in a different space in the house. Like, there's just sometimes some things I just want to watch. I want to be able to zone out, do my thing, and and I can clean the kitchen, clean the house. And like, I ended up prepping food for the baby. I ended up prepping breakfast meals for us for the next 2 days. I cleaned the kitchen. Like, I got the living room, and she came back. She was like, oh my God, like, you did all this. Why? Like, what happened? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I was sitting here watching Arsenal highlights and I just got busy. And she was like, I feel like you're doing too much. I'm like, no, it's okay. Like, you'll make it up with when I'm sick, or, like I can't do something, or you're getting in the spirit. And I think if I could ever make the load on her a little easier, like I will do it, because I know she'll do it for me. And I think there's a real foundation in understanding like we have each other's back. And we talked before we got married, we'd always talk about like, it's not about keeping score. And so you were talking about 50-50, and it reminded me of that. And I'm gonna tell you something, I struggle I'm not gonna say I sometimes struggle with keeping score because sometimes I can feel like, yo, I'm doing a lot, and I know that but it's like an emotional I'm doing a lot. But then I also just realize like there are other sacrifices that she makes or she take care of that I don't even think about or know about. Like and anytime we need a babysitter, she takes care of. Like I don't to this day I've never paid the babysitter, even though I've like set up date. It's weird, right? Like and that's like that's part of it. It's just like no, it's handled. And we talk a lot about just like, yo, what is the way that we can get to happiness as quickly as possible? How quickly can we get to a nap for him, for us? How quickly can we get to dinner? How quickly can we get to vacation? How quickly can we do to XYZ? And like at the end of the day, if I do 70%, she does 30, or she does 60% and I do 40, like who cares? We made it to the finish line. And one of our big foundational things for 2023 is, done is better than perfect, because in a perfect scenario, we would do things 50-50. Like tonight, in a 50-50 scenario, I would have washed Emery up and I would have got him out the tub and I would have picked some clothes out for him. And then Paige would have got him lotioned up and put him a diaper on him and read a book and gave him a bottle and went to sleep. That's about as 50-50 as it could get. Mm-hmm. But I also know that I took care of Emery last night in totality so she can go to the gym. And on Monday, we probably did do a 50-50. And tomorrow, I'm going to hot spin class because I'm trying to get my 38 pack back. And you know what I'm saying? And she's probably going to have to handle more of the load. And like at the end of the day, like it's the end of the week, it's actually probably going to even out to close to 50-50 because we're willing to give and take to help the other person get some happy, right? And so like I think if you take the long road and you play the big game, you understand like what the bigger picture is if I could do these things to make her happy, or if I could do some things to lighten her load by giving her the opportunity to go to therapy, to go to work out, to go hang out with her girlfriends, to do this, do that, I'm probably gonna receive it back. And I would say like she's fantastic at doing that. I remember she was like, Kris said y'all playing poker, so you need to win some money for us. I was like, okay. And I did win money for us. Thank you, Kris. I took your money. And
you're welcome.
And that helped pay for dinner at Benihana last week. So I appreciate that. When are we doing the next game?
Oh, soon. We gotta get one going. The last time that was a terrible outcome of that Bengals game, but
I mean, yes, a man literally almost died on the football field, but twice. But I did win money, and I don't know. That's kind of wild. I don't know what I just did, but prayers up to Damar Hamlin.
Prayers up to Damar Hamlin
because he's good now, and dinner was paid for. And I ate this like fire cheese dip that y'all made. It looked a little lumpy. I didn't know if it was gonna give me the BGs later. It didn't. I was able to survive. It was a good night in totality.
I mean, you basically make the same thing with the Rotello.
I do. The Rotel. It's the legendary. The legendary Rotel dip. I'll never give away the secret.
This one had chorizo in it instead of ground turkey.
I mean, that's one of the ingredients. You might be onto something, but I'll tell you off air. You know what I'm saying? I'll let you know.
But follow up to that last question: do you feel like this has also enhanced your communication in your relationship? Just because, for one, you got to communicate about the baby. I feel like you got to check in more with each other personally, because now you're balancing another person outside of your initial relationship. Do you feel like this has enhanced your communication in your relationship, or?
I actually think it's enhanced is probably I would just use the word evolved. Like I think we're pretty fortunate that we already communicate well. I would actually say we probably communicate a little bit less because we kind of know what to do. Like
now it's more intuitive.
Yeah, it's like, hey man, baby crying, go handle it. Like we're not really asking as many questions. Like I remember there was a time, first 6 months, the baby would be crying and I'd wake up and I'd start snoring again, fake, and and I think that worked twice, and then he was crying. I think she said, I don't care if you're asleep, get up. And no, I mean, look, man, the communication. You want to know what it actually is with communication? This is actually probably this is going to take it a little deeper. Getting married, having a child, it forces you to have big boy adult conversations.
Yeah.
I remember before when we were engaged, me and Kris's mutual friends, Terrence, he works as a financial advisor for us. And I remember he had sent over like a worksheet about like our money and our debt and like, all these things. And I remember looking at it, I was like, I'm not feeling that. And then I had to ask why. And I realized like I don't think I actually have much anxiety, but then I realized I did. And like talking about my finances and transparency hard because I didn't have a healthy relationship. Similarly, going to the doctor was also, and like being more health conscious was a similar thing that I had to learn I had to work on having like grown folks conversations about my health and taking care of myself because I didn't have a healthy relationship with going to the hospital, going to the doctor. I grew up with no insurance as a kid. My mom treated every day like we didn't have no and I realized I had developed bad habits. And again, we kind of talked about how direct my wife can be. She can also be she knows when I'm wounded. She knows when I'm like, okay, this is a tender subject. She won't go in for the kill. She'll go in, what they say, you can get more with some honey than with vinegar. So she knows when to be sweet about it. And that was like hard. And yet I've never been financially or physically as healthy as I've been now. I might still be a large husky man, but we better than a couple years ago. And financially, I think, we're just in a better place. And I would then say that trickles over to, again, like professional and our networks and like psychologically. I took my first therapy session at the end of 2022. I was like, I don't need therapy. I'm, whatever. Like, I don't know. It's just not something I was really, really open to. And, like it was a positive engagement. And so, those grown up conversations start with even just like conversations like now, like, even with friendship, the conversations me and Kris have now compared to 3, 5, 7 years ago have evolved drastically. Pretty much all we used to ever talk about was, hey man, Bengals trash, Jaguar trash, and Ohio State couldn't beat Oklahoma. That was about the gist of what we talked about. And, but like, me and Kris, I mean, if I ask Kris to talk about real estate, he's gonna go for like 3 hours, whatever. And like, he's like, oh man, I got all the home improvement guys you need. You want to take a wall down, you want to add a bathroom to your house, you want to put in French doors, like, I know I got the guy. But we can have spiritual conversations, we can have conversations about relationships and marriage, and how we want to be as men, as Black men. And so I'm actually, and Kris knows, I'm going to Sedona next month with my fellas to do a bit of what I'm calling like a fellowship retreat. We're going to Sedona, Arizona, and all we're going to do, I realize I'm getting old because like usually if I had a chance to do a guy trip, I'd probably just go to Vegas, get a room, go throw money at the craps table, play poker, go to the club, get a table, go to the strip club, get a table, eat steak, and then repeat for like 3 days. And then come home polluted, bloated, and broke. And I actually became a bit envious of my wife during the pandemic because, they'd be like, yeah, we're going to Wyoming. What? Yeah, we're going to New Mexico. We're just going to go eat green chilies in New Mexico and hike and, sit by the pool and go visit old Santa Fe and stuff. And I'm like, hey, why don't I do that with my homeboys? And I think I could do a whole podcast on why men are trash at doing guys trips, because men, we act like the only things we can do is like go to the Dominican Republic, go to Vegas, go to Miami, like, and do similar activities. You know what I'm saying? And this trip to Arizona, we're literally going to go hike. We're going to go check out vortexes and like go get weird a little bit. We're going during All-Star Weekend, so we're gonna watch All-Star Weekend with no women around. And we're gonna cook food and we're gonna eat good. We're gonna drink good. We're gonna talk good. We're gonna there's a hot tub and a pool where we're gonna be at, and like we just gonna get away for the weekend. And I'm so excited. And I think I'm fortunate because like I told my wife about it. She's like, yo, I cannot wait. I'm so excited for you because you're having experiences that are going to serve you. And I think we always lean on how can we have experiences for ourselves and others that are going to serve us. So that's really priority. It's funny when you have a child, you actually become more selfish for yourself, more selfish for your son or your child and your partner. And that helps filter and give you a laser focus on the things that really.
Wow.
I'm excited for you too, man, because Sedona is a beautiful place. I was just out there for my birthday. Man, just just the vibes, just the being out in that environment, powerful. Like,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I would love to just expound on this a little bit because listen, I'm looking dead in the camera. I'm looking at all shades of Steph Curry men to LeBron, Jimmy Butler shades of men, black men. We are trash when it comes to going on male trips. Like what I want to do is I want to go to Vancouver
Yeah.
with my guys, and I want to get a car and go to Whistler and go skiing. I want to go to Louisville, Kentucky, and I want to go hit the Bourbon Trail. Like I want to go to New Orleans, baby.
I just want to do a golf trip.
Look, we can go, Chris. Let's go to Palm Springs, go play golf. We can just go get a crib. You know what I'm saying? Get a crib with a pool and a grill. You know what I'm saying? Get a couple of homies. Let's go get these clubs. I've swung them 3 times. And let's go be trash on the golf course and drink PBR or Corona or whatever. Because and this is another related story, and I'm gonna take it back to Vegas. Last year, Chris heard me talk about this. Last year, my neighbor, and him and his wife are similar ages as us. Shout out to Derwin and Chriselle. They have their daughter is about 6 weeks older than ours, and so our kids go to daycare together. And she's an AK, my wife's an AK, and they do their thing. They're killing it professionally as well. Excuse me. And Derwin was like, "Yo, we think about doing a Vegas trip. You trying to go?" And I was like, "Bro, you say less." Like, because again, like to be clear, I like going to Vegas. Like just because I say like I want to do other things in Vegas, don't get it twisted. I like going to Vegas. So I'm like, yo, I'm down, bet. Let's do it. And Chriselle was like, yo, you're gonna be the wild one in the trip. And I said, hold on. Because I do not usually rate number 1 in the wild and out of town power ranking list. I'm usually mid pack. If it's 10, I'm usually in that 4 or 5 ranking. So when they said I was gonna be leading the pack in wild, I was like, what? And I realized quickly, like I was asking like, yo, what y'all trying to do? And they was like, I don't know, we just gonna eat steak and play poker. And I was like, oh. I was like, this okay. And they was like, well, we heard you know a lot about Vegas, so what you trying to do? So I said, okay, well, here are some options. We could go to Dre's. Rick Ross is performing. We can get a table. It's gonna cost us 2 racks. It's 4 of us. And I had already mentally committed, like I would drop the $500 to get 2 bottles that cost $700 a pop, pay the 33% tip and the 33% cover wave, because that's what they do in Vegas. That's how you get to $2,000. I don't know if y'all didn't never figured out the math. They put in the gratuity anywhere from 18 to 25%, and then they charge you a cover skip charge. That's like another like $300. And I was prepared. I'm like, it's Vegas, we doing it. And then I'm asking like, yo, do y'all drink? No, we don't even really drink for real. I'm like, oh, okay. Wait, y'all realize Rick Ross is only like, because they're like, yo, Rick Ross, oh man, he got hits. Like, I'm like, yeah, he's only gonna do like 40 minutes. Oh man, we don't really even need to go to Dre's. I was like, cool. And then we was talking like, like you gonna go to strip club. Like we all married, and I just for transparency, like me and my wife would go to, I ain't putting her business out, but we would go to the strip club together. Like that's not a thing. But I'm like, well, how y'all feel about strip club? Man, I don't even need to go to strip club for us. I was like, oh, snap. Like, taking things off the menu. Okay. So then I'm reading the room. I'm like, okay, what are some things I wish I had done at Vegas that I never do? Y'all want to go Top Golf? That sounds like a fantastic idea. Y'all want to go shoot guns? That. We're going to shoot guns. Automatic guns. And then I was like, you introduced me so eloquently. I cover the UFC. Chris knows. I've been trying to let him know. Whenever you're ready, I got a plug at the UFC. I may or may not be able to get VIP to some UFC fights. So I was like, hey, we in town. What's good? It's like, we have 4 tickets with your name on it. Sit 5th row at the Apex. The Apex, if y'all don't know, when they do the big events, they do them at T-Mobile. When they do the non-big events, they have a production center called the Apex. It's still the same fights. It's still live, but it's in a smaller facility. And the benefit of VIP is, outside of hearing aggressive Brazilian and Russian dudes slapping meat and kicking each other in the face, is you get open bar and free food all night. So now they looking at me like, yo, Ed, they was like, yo, you number 1 in the rankings for real. I was like, yo. And so we watched people beat each other up. We shot guns. We played golf. We ate $100 steaks, and we had parent conversations. We had a conversation not that much different than this one now. And it was so fun, and we killed it on the crash day. We all came away with money. That was a good feeling too. And I remember, like, I came home and I told Paige, I was like, this got to be the most sterile, chaste Vegas experience I ever had. I didn't come home bloated, dehydrated. Yeah. And then I was like, this was the most fun I've ever had in Vegas.
Yeah.
And I was like,
Yeah.
and I was trying to think why. And I realized like I didn't have no anxiety about going to the club. I was married, so I wasn't trying, I wasn't trying to pull nothing. Like I wasn't trying to worry about splitting the bill. Like I went with 3 dudes who worked at Apple. Like they was like, they all threw their metal Apple cards. I'm like, y'all are ridiculous. Get out of here. So, like nobody was worried about paying for nothing. And like we was all going to bed at respectable hours, like midnight, 1 o'clock in Vegas is respectable. Like we got up, we went out and just, ate regular breakfast with regular humans at like 9, 10 o'clock, and I was like, man, I had so much fun. Like, when can we do this again? And to the point of like going to play golf, like we even said, like, yo, we would go find a course or whatever. So I encourage men, especially in the post-COVID era where we've all been cooped up, and I think our social skills have eroded a bit. And also being in the house and reading social media and reading the news and all these things, I think that gives you also a sense of heightened anxiety for other things. I encourage men to follow our wives' leads. I told my wife, like, I think I'm gonna get a pedicure next week. I just want my feet to feel dainty and soft and moisturized.
I just went with Jen last week.
See, I'm telling you, man, self-care is real, bro. I'm telling you, man. Like I'm like, yo, I spent all this time to get the beard manicured and all this and all that, and I'm like, man, but these toes, man.
We were talking about that on one of the episodes about Jen took me to get my nose waxed.
Oh my
I'm
God.
like, I didn't know I could breathe so well. Like I'm breathing in HD.
That's fantastic. I might have to try that out.
Oh man. Totally different. I'm like, I shave my nose hairs all the time, but it don't feel nothing like that.
That's funny. So if you don't get any other advice from listening to this podcast, take better bro trips and get your nose hair waxed. Okay. You know what? I'm gonna hold. Hey, look, I'm gonna do it sometime. Hey, 2023, I'm gonna do it. I ain't gonna say when, but you hold me to it. It's on record. I'll try anything once.
Listen, you're gonna call me, you can be like, bro, I didn't even know I had this much air to breathe.
I look at like something like that, like I look at ayahuasca. You got to prepare for it because I know my eyes gonna tear up. You know what I mean? Man. When I get the actual waxing, I know my eyes gonna tear up. And there's gonna be this crazy sensation in my nostrils. It's just like, oh, all right, it's got to mentally prepare for it and then pull the trigger. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's gonna be painful. You're gonna want to cry, but you're gonna feel euphoria.
Don't even think about it. Don't even think about it. Just know after it's done, it's all worth it.
Hey Eddie, like, man, I know that we're getting to almost an hour, so I just know like we're all doing the best that we can with the resources and consciousness that we have, and a lot of that consciousness come from our parents. You know what I mean? My mom was raised by gangsters, so she told me she didn't know how to love, and so I couldn't expect it. You know what I mean? And I know that's one of the reasons why I love so much, because that was something I always lacked. So I kind of like overcompensated. You know what I mean? And we all have that consciousness from our parents on how to do things, and we also know what we don't want to do or a different route that we want to take because our parents went through some struggles as well. So like, what do you want to carry on, and what do you want to do differently than your parents did?
Yeah, I mean, that's loaded. Okay.
That's loaded.
Hey, my I'm like, damn.
So no, this is good though. I don't have nothing. I don't have nothing that's that shameful. I don't think. I think so. My mom and dad. I always tell folks like, hey, just because they didn't make it, I was planned. They was married and they planned to have me. So there's that. So I feel good about being planned for. But they divorced when I was 2 years old. And, I think about like my father, and I don't have, it's my Paige would always, when I would say like, I don't have any hurt or feelings for him. Like there's nothing there other than like, he's a man and I treat him like a man. And like, that's it. And, she's like, yo, it sounds hurt. You sound like you feel some type of way. I'm like, no, I don't. Like, he's never really been in my life. So how can I have these feelings for something that never really existed? And I say all that to say, if I'm mad at my father for one thing, y'all said my name, Eddie Maisonet, full name Eduardo Maisonet, and you're like, yo, that sounds a little, not quite just black, so my father's very Puerto Rican. I'm a third of my name, Eduardo Maisonet III, Eduardo Maisonet III, you know what I'm saying? That comes from some adobo seasoning stock, you feel me? And yet, for the love of God, I just wish this man would have passed language down to me. Because I have conversations with my abuela in Puerto Rico now, and it's difficult. And I think about being in California and just, the way in which we live. And I'm just like, yo, like, I don't hate this man, but goddamn, I wish he'd have just gave me some Spanish. Like, I could have been, I call myself Whiskey Poppy sometimes. Like, I could have been Poppy out here for real. Like, it'd have been a whole other game. But and then my mom, man, I realized like she loves really hard, and and my wife says the same thing, like, yo, you love hard, and I'm like, yeah, and you feel that from her. She's adorable and sweet, but I think because she loves so hard, and I think about the relationships she's had, I think she is unwilling to be trusting long term. I think she struggles with being independent, and I think that she is like, and then also like there's just an age gap. Like, she's in her 60s now. And I think about like, it's funny. None of us are where we grew up. Y'all from Ohio. I'm from Oklahoma. I think we all made that decision pretty quick. We ain't coming back. We got to get up on out of here. And I think when I start to think about my mindset, there can be things we're talking about. And she's just like, she's like, I can't believe you think that way. I can't believe you have that level of trust or this liberation. Like there are things that she still has rigidities to because she ain't never left my hometown. And I think she's we always call my hometown, for those that don't know, I'm from Lawton, Oklahoma. Lawton, Oklahoma is a military town. It's about 70 miles southwest of Oklahoma City. It's about 40 minutes from the border, Oklahoma and Texas. And we always call my hometown the trap. Like, if you don't get out by about 18, 19 years old, you ain't getting out without some war wounds, some kids, whatever. And, but like, it's funny because like I never wanted to live there long term, but I'm so glad I grew up in a town because I grew up in a town where the main color was camo green, not black and white. And there's a level of equality in being in a military town. And I think, my son probably will say, yes, sir, no, ma'am. He'll probably be on that. I think that there is an expectation of, I really want to pass down some traditions, and I realize like it's becoming harder to do that because I don't really have a big family. And then you cut that in half because I don't have my father's side to lean on, and I'm an only child. I do have 4 sisters. My father remarried. He had 4 more daughters, and so I tell them like we have to start our tradition, we have to start our own culture, and we have to build our own legacy. And I think I'm fortunate that my wife is like, yeah, let's do that. It could be small things. For Christmas we build a gingerbread house every year because that's something she really want to do. And so like every year, a couple days before Christmas, we have spiked eggnog and listen to This Christmas and make the gingerbread houses, and what I'm saying, like watch Bad Santa on TV, and that's just kind of what we do. And it's cool. Like it is liberating to be able to redefine your version of love, your version of family, and do those things that do reflect on who you are. That also something that is reestablishing you with your family and your network, your village. So and it's funny now. My mom is like, "Ooh, I need to come kick it with y'all. Like y'all having a good time. Like give me some E&J. We about to pull it because my mama like E&J.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I got this same bottle of E&J that you had the last time I got. You're the only one drinking it. You only one drinking that. Nobody's drinking that. That bottle been down there. It's dusty as hell, but it's for her. Like, you ain't gotta worry about it. So, like I man, my mom is everything.
Yeah.
And it's funny because I remember telling her when I was about maybe 13, she had got remarried, and I thought he was the lamest dude. And I just remember saying to her though, and when I was 12 when they got married, I was like, Mom, if it make you happy. But the truth was this man was an alcoholic. He didn't really have a lot of ambition. To this day, I still think my mama married this man because my mama saw my teeth and was like, yo, you need braces. And she saw that I was squinting and that I need glasses because we didn't have no benefits. My mama did hair. My mom was a hairdresser for 25 years. Mm-hmm. And I think my mama made the choice of, this is a good looking man. He's a sergeant, E6 in the military, and if for no other reason, my son gonna get some benefits out of this. Maybe he'll pick up, they fix some things around the house, learn chores and discipline and some of those things. But at the end of the day, didn't none of that matter because he ain't shit. And I remember we even got in a fight in the garage. I hit him with a garbage can. We were brawling on his Cadillac. And I remember my mom was like, Eddie, no. And I was like, oh. And then we stopped. And then I just left the house. I had tank top ripped and everything. I was like crazy. And I remember I came home that night and I said something that I think carries over to my wife now. I said, Mama, one day I just want to love somebody that I want to love somebody. I wish that they loved you that way, from a partner standpoint. Because I'll never forgive that man because that man promised I think my mother some security by getting married, and that's a really old school thing. My mom was a hairdresser for 25 years, had one of the most successful beauty salons in all of the state of Oklahoma. She was going on tour. If you're not familiar with like the Bronner Brothers, which is a hair convention they do in Atlanta every year, she was sponsored by Dudley's. They wanted her to come work out there.
Wow.
And so it wasn't like she was just doing hair, like she was thriving. She was a stylist for the Miss Back Oklahoma pageant. Wow. Wasn't like she was on some chump change. And my stepdaddy at the time, he looked at my mama's shop as, oh, the sink's leaking. Oh man, you got to fix this chair. Oh, you ain't coming home till 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night. He looked at it almost like it was a nuisance, like it was a liability. Mm-hmm. And so he did the ultimate. He sold the ultimate dream, the ultimate bad bag of dope. He said, yo, quit your job and let me take care of you. And she did, because my wife makes more money than I do. And she occasionally will joke like, you need to get on television at ESPN so I can quit my job and we can so I could be a housewife. I'm like, until I make more money than you, we not visiting that conversation at all. But and I tell her like, you make more money than me. Like, let me be a house husband. I can clean this house, but and she did. And she had some of her individuality stripped from her on that day, and I'll never forgive him for that. And I think, Kris knows, Charles, like, yo, man, my wife a beast, man, in corporate, and like, she's in the C-suite now, and like, I get emotional even just thinking about it, from where she was at the start of her career to now. Like in 7 years, she went from entry level to the C-suite. Like, that's not normal. And I tell her, this is amazing, and I'm here to help you do whatever it takes to thrive. And again, that goes back to the word sacrifice, and you don't know what sacrifice is until you face it. And I wish my stepfather would have thought about sacrificing just a little bit, because my mom had done so much to sacrifice for a man. They'd only been married a year or two, because my mama loves hard and she's aspirational. And I think that I'm fortunate to a degree that I can be able to take a step back and take a breath and see things for what they are. Not always, but I like to think I do that on occasion. And I got a partner that can do that. That's just a huge blessing.
Thank you so much for your transparency and honesty. I didn't know that was such a loaded question, but what I got out of it that you were saying is that what you wanted to pass on was definitely respect, being open-minded, showing up, being willing to build your own culture, love hard, sacrifice, be something and do something.
Mm-hmm. And I would add to that, love responsible. I think we love, man, like, the joke of me and my wife's wedding anniversary and our date being on the same day is very obvious. Like, oh wait, y'all didn't get married for 7 years. Like, what the hell took you so long? I remember Paige's girlfriends like, yo, anytime Beyonce come on Single Ladies, I was just like, yo, this is the worst, because I put a ring on it. I'm like, yo, stop this song. This is madness. Like, I can't. Anytime that song came on, should have put a ring on it. Like, and we joke about it, and I tell her, like, to this day, I'm so glad we waited 7 years. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm not saying I couldn't have married her sooner, but some of them conversations we were having about money or health, even to the point of, think about what I just said. Like, I had a real, I don't want to call it a phobia, but anxiety of getting married, because I'd never seen any successful marriages in my family. Mm-hmm. Even my grandmother and grandfather, who were married until my grandmother passed away, though, so that was 58 years. Like, it's a running joke that when I was about 5, 6 years old and I was in my grandmother's house, hey Panda, when I was, I would go to my grandmother's house, I could see, oh, grandma and granddaddy don't sleep in the same bed. And I remember asking my grandmother in the car, we was coming back from church. I was like, why don't you and granddaddy sleep? And my aunt and my grandmother, they just bust out laughing. She's like, you'll understand one day, and whatever. And then I've learned over time that there were broken pieces of that marriage, and they were basically, I'm not putting my family business out there. I think this is just what it is. Like, they were together because they had 4 kids and they had grandkids, and like this home that they created in Lawton, Oklahoma was a foundational setting to develop 2 generations of folk. And so, but like my mama failed at it twice. Aunt couldn't even, my aunt didn't even get to marriage. My uncle got married twice. I looked at my other uncle's marriage, and that was shambles. And then I started to think about the friend zone in our village, and it's just like, like this long-term relation, like, civil union, what, I don't know what to call it, like, why do we need to go down this path? And then, at some point I also think I just realized, that ain't me. Like, there's a little bit of ego in me of like, I'm me, and like, I'm gonna figure it out, and having faith. And then it's kind of going back on faith. And so like some of that love responsibility was like, oh man, this woman to lay down, I'll lay down for her. I'll give her my everything. At some point, it's like, really, like, what are we talking about? And I kind of look at things like, if I go down this path and we take all the steps and we take all the precautions and it doesn't work out for whatever reason, I can't say I didn't try. I can't say I'm not going to put everything on the line to try. And I know that she's going to try. And if it really gets to the point it's that broken, then okay, like, that's, I don't know. I don't think everybody feels like, I look at when people get divorced, I'll be one to celebrate, because I'm like, because if I feel like, if you took the easy way out of the relationship and you got a divorce, that's, if you got any character, if you got any salt, if you got any temerity about you, and you tried to make it work and it don't work, like, get out, And so, and truthfully, like, in our relationship of 10 years, I probably tried to take a coward's way out twice. And then I go back to, my wife read the hell out of me and was like, you fucking up. And I'm like, damn, I'm gonna have to. That's just the truth of it all. It's like, like, that's your person. That's the person that sees you in totality and in full transparency and still loves your ass anyway. It's like, well, what are we really doing? So yeah, like, those are the things that I think that I learned not only from my parents and my family, just evolving with the relationships and experience had.
That's amazing, dog. Absolutely amazing. Well, man, shoot, just thank you so much for coming onto the show today, bro, with all your brevity and wisdom. I mean, damn, bro.
Look, I'm just trying to keep up with y'all, man. Y'all got sturdy hairlines, you know what I'm saying? You got, you know what I'm saying? Like, you got well lit backdrops in your house, and I got to go down here and change diaper pails when I get done, and maybe I'll stick some bourbon or something before I lay it down. But I'll tell both of y'all this. I've seen both of y'all grow. The fact that, Charles, the type of the work you're doing, with self-help and self-care is empowering. So, and then Kris, the same, with things that you've done as a professional and as a husband. I'm proud of both of you guys. I'm proud to call both of y'all colleagues, friends. I know if I need anything, I can call. And I know I got somebody that's gonna have my back, and it feels good. And if y'all are gonna have these conversations with other people going forward, I think it's not only gonna be an enriching podcast, but it's gonna enrich y'all and the people that engage with it going forward. I encourage y'all, as someone who's a content creator, someone I've been doing content for 15 years. If you can have honest, transparent, real conversations with people, you can do it consistently. You'll have something you can lean on. Just encourage you to go when it gets hard in when the podcast gets hard, and you're like, I don't want to do this shit. Like, that's when you got to keep going. Because that's how the content game really works. Is when you don't. It's like anything else. Like, if you don't really, when you hit to that wall of like, I really want to edit, I really want to talk to Kris, I don't even like him. Like, that's when you got to do it. And I think you'll have some. So I'm proud of you guys.
I appreciate it, and hopefully people will learn a lot from all the information that you've had shared with us today. They're able to take some pointers for their own situations, and maybe able to find some ways to communicate, be there for their partners, as well as the child. Just being there for support, for love. Just understanding parenthood is always evolving, and your relationship is always evolving, and you guys got to.
Most definitely, 100%.
Real talk. Well, thank you again, Eddie, and thank everybody out there. for your attention. We truly, truly appreciate it. Please consider hitting the like and subscribe button if you are on YouTube, and if you're on a podcast platform, give a brother 5 stars, and some feedback as well.
Can I end this with our what is it, principle of the day? Everyone's story ends in death. What makes it a tragedy is not letting yourself have a great life while you're here. So go ahead and enjoy your life. Don't keep putting roadblocks up on yourself. Make sure that you're communicating with your partner, allowing yourself free time to do yourself and grow yourself individually. Don't make yourself tragedy and put too many boxes around yourself. Make sure you're living your life freely and happy.
Kris, you got that tattooed on your back, don't you? Don't lie.
He does this profound shit every single time. I say something like, hey, smoke weed every day, and he's like, oh, we're all centered as one in this big universe. I'm like, yo. Like,
that's good balance. Y'all are balancing each other. That's what's up.
No, I don't say stuff like that. But,
you should. No.
And please, everybody, go hit up Eddie at Ed the Sports Fan, and just thank you all so much again. And until next time, take care of yourself and take care of one another.
Yes.
Peace.
Peace.